Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have for you my April wrap up as well as my books that I want to read in March. I'm not going to hold myself to a TBR because I will never live up to it. But these are just the books that I kind of want to get to in March, in May. These are the books I want to get to in May. So we'll see if I get to them, but these are the ones I want to get to. If you hear anything like going on in the background, by the way, it's my dog down there. She's kind of walking around and finding herself. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first book I read in the month of April was Breaks Volume 2. And Breaks is about a guy named Cortland who moves to this new school, and now he's living with his brother, and you know he has kind of a troubled past, but you don't know what really happened, and you're kind of learning as the story goes on. And you have Ian, who's this really charismatic, popular guy. Everyone likes him, but he's kind of flighty and he doesn't really stick with one specific plan. And it's basically about these two kind of figuring out that, one, they have feelings for each other, two, dealing with their life and family drama and everything that kind of goes along with having such a close family. And also you learn there's more to each of their story than meets the eye, or even what either one of them know about each other. So it's an interesting story. I gave it a 5-star. I don't know if I like this one more than the first one, but it was definitely a good read. Okay, so the next book I read was The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea by Amelia Wilde, and it's a fairly short book. Excuse my book. It's been kind of like everywhere with me so I can finish it, but it's basically a story about this guy named Poseidon, and he is categorized as a pirate. This guy named Poseidon, he runs his own ship and his own crew, and they basically go around shipping things, but you kind of know that whatever he's shipping is not on the up and up. So then you also have this girl named Ashley who, in the very beginning of the book, her boyfriend is shot and killed by a group of drug dealers, and they're like stranded on a yacht in the middle of the ocean, and she's below deck hiding, and before she can get caught, she decides to jump off the ship and take her chances with the ocean. And Poseidon finds her floating in the ocean, pulls her out, and she is now a prisoner on his ship because her father is rich, and Poseidon has decided to hold her for ransom against her father. But there's a little bit more that goes on in this, and they kind of realize that there's a little bit more to their story than meets the eye, and that they have feelings for each other. So yeah, it was very, very good. I gave this 5 stars. It was really good. I can't wait to read book 2, which I also own. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but it was so good. So the next book I read was Kings of Kearney by Nevessa Allen. This was an e-arc. I don't even know when it comes out. It comes out in May, I believe. This book I really liked. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was about a girl named Krista who moves to the town of Kearney with her grandmother who is suffering from Alzheimer's, and they decide on this town because it's the best facility they were able to find in the area that could treat her grandmother. Sorry it got really dark. It just got really dark outside, but it's not raining. Maybe it might possibly start raining. We'll have to see. But yeah, sorry it got really dark. But anyway, so she moves to this town with her grandmother and puts her grandmother in this home because they felt like it was the best one around for what her grandmother needed. And in doing this, she starts to work in a bar to pay for her grandmother's nursing home as well as kind of how she survives. And this town is basically run by a MC club called the Kings, and she has been attracted to one of the Kings members, Jacob, for a long time, well, since she's met him pretty much, and they end up talking one night in the bar that she works at, and he tells her that he wants to talk to her, and it has something to do with her grandmother and the facility that she's staying in. And come to find out, there's some shady things going on in the facility with the club all around. And this ended up being like a, not just like a MC romance, but like a mystery type thing. I really liked it. It was long, but it was very good. So like I said, I give it 4 stars. I just really enjoyed it. I don't know what else to say. So the next book I read was Bound by Temptation, which was book 4 in the Born in Blood Mafia series by Cora Riley, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It wasn't my favorite. I felt like, I don't know, like it kind of dragged in places where I felt like I had to force myself to listen to it because I listened to it on audio, and I felt like I was like partially forcing myself to read it where I hadn't felt like that with the other books. So it wasn't my favorite one out of the series at all by far. This one follows Liliana, who is Arya from the very first book's sister, her youngest sister, and Romero, who is Luca, Arya's husband and the leader of the New York Familia, his like bodyguard enforcer person for Arya, and also his best friend. So basically Liliana has always had a thing for Romero since she was very young. Whenever she first met him, I think she was 14 or 13 when she first met him, and they've always, well, they haven't, she has always flirted with him, and because she was a child, he never obviously reciprocated. And then as she got older, he started to realize she was becoming more of a woman and that he did actually have feelings for her. So their relationship kind of went on from there because it was forbidden, because he's just a soldier. He's not like a high ranking man. And because her father is the consigliere for the head of the Chicago outfit, he's too low of a ranking for her to marry. So her father would never approve of their marriage, so their relationship would have been forbidden, which is basically the whole story, is them kind of not supposed to be not going into this forbidden relationship, and yet they can't really hold themselves back from what they feel. So that's this whole story in a nutshell. Like I said, this wasn't my favorite, to be perfectly honest. I might go down to a 3-star instead of a 4-star. It just wasn't my favorite, and it kind of made me not want to continue with the series. So we'll see from there, but yeah. Okay, so the next book I read was Menace by J.M. Darhauer. And Menace was probably one of my favorite books of the month. It was a 5-star read for me, if you can't tell. And it basically follows this girl named Morgan who is down on her luck, and she needs money. She needs money, so she kind of does whatever she has to do to get it. She's also on the run from the Russians, and you don't really know why, except for that the leader wants her and he's supposed to be in love with her, and that's pretty much all you know. I don't want to spoil it because there were some things that I did not see coming that happened in this first book, so I don't want to give too much away, but this was one of my favorite books of the month. It was so good. Scar, or his name's not Scar. Oh, what's his name? What's his actual name? They call him Scar because he has a scar on his face, and one of his eyes he is blind in. Oh, what's his name right now? Lorenzo. There we go. His name's Lorenzo. Lorenzo, basically, he had a very rough childhood. He raised his brother by himself when he was 18, and it's just been them two, and he's known for being a very ruthless man, even with being partially blind. People are still very afraid of him. He's very interesting and straightforward, and I love it. Anyway, so yes. And then following this book, I read book 2, which is Grievous. And I can't tell you about book 2 because it'll give away what happened in book 1. But this one was also another 5-star for me. So, yes, that tells you how good it was. So, the next book I read was Ruthless. Well, it's called the Vendetti Empire Capo di Capi Ruthless Matteo Vendetti, I think is what it is. Vendetti, that's his name. And it, I gave this one a 3-star. And it just, I think this one, where it fell short for me, was that it was just too short. I listened to this one on audio as I was doing some work, and the audio itself was like 5 hours long. So when you're listening to it on, usually I listen to my books like 2.5, anywhere from 2.5 to 3 times speed. And listening like that, it was literally only 2 or 2.5 hours. And it was just too short. Like, there wasn't enough. So basically you have this guy named Matteo, and he is becoming the new capo. And in order to do that, his father is retiring, and he's forcing him into a arranged marriage. And Matteo has always known that this was his future, so he just kind of goes along with it and agrees. Then you have his wife, or his soon-to-be wife, whose name is Morgan, and Morgan is pretty much like Matteo. She pretty much always knew that she would have to get married. She just didn't know that she would marry at 18. So basically, as soon as she became of age, her father told her, "You're getting married," and then she got married the very next day, I think it was. And then on top of that, Matteo's family has a ritual that you have to do when you marry the capo. So, I don't want to tell you what it is because it kind of gives away the story, but I just felt like this story had a lot of sex and not a lot of substance. And I get it because, like, you want, like, a steamy story, but it just didn't have any substance. It didn't have anything really going with the sex, if that makes sense. So I feel like if you kept going in the series, then it would be worth it because you would get a little bit more story to go with it. But because you are just reading this book, I feel like there should also be enough in this book to make you want to go on to the next book. Like, I have nothing against, like, novella type books or really short books. Like, hey, The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea is only literally 240 pages, I think. Not even. I think it's just 200 pages. Yeah, it's just 200 pages. And this, I want to go back to the next book for. But for that one, it was just so, there wasn't enough. And it kind of felt like forced. Like, first, she didn't want him, and then all of a sudden, 5 seconds later, she did want him. And she wanted, I can't tell you what it is, but she wanted a lot. But 2 seconds before, she hadn't wanted to even be touched, bothered, or anything else. So it just felt very forced, if you get what I mean. So, yeah. So the next book I read was In Peace Lies Havoc by Amo Jones. And this was such an interesting story, and I want to read book 2. So this story is about a girl named Dove who has lost her parents when she was 14, I think. They were killed right in front of her by a group of guys. She doesn't know who they were because they were all wearing masks. And one of the guys looks at her and he tells her he'll always be watching her, he'll always be following her, and one day he'll come back for her. So since then, she's kind of been on the run. She's been moving. She ends up working in this strip club, and she ends up being kidnapped. When she wakes up, she's on a yacht in a cage, and these 4 guys come and they take her and another girl who was in the cage or the cell across from her, and they tell her she can either join this circus or leave. Basically, they don't really say what happens if you choose not to join, but it's kind of mysterious and they don't really tell her anything, and everybody seems like they hate her a little bit, and she doesn't really know why, because she doesn't know any of these people, and they're just very mysterious. It's interesting, and it's all in the backdrop of this dark circus. I really like this book. I loved all the twists and the turns, and then I loved Kingston, who's your other kind of like perspective in this, who is the leader of these 4 guys that she ends up living with, and he is interesting. And he is an interesting one because he runs very hot and cold with her. Like, one minute he'll want her, the next minute he doesn't. But I really enjoy this. I loved all the plot twists. I loved how you found out all these things about her that you didn't really know, and not only just about her but about everybody, and everybody in this story has a story, and it's so interesting, and I really enjoyed it. It kept me going, and I believe I gave it 4 stars, but it was good. It was very good. I think I read this in a day. That's how good it was, because I don't usually read books in a day anymore, but this one, so good. And the last book I read in the month of April, now today's the 30th actually, I think, so, and I'm kind of in the middle of the book, so I might finish this book, but I'll just add it on to May's books that I read instead. But so the last book I read in the month of April is Her Crimson Rain by Tristina Brockway. And Her Crimson Rain is basically about this girl named Six who had a very traumatizing childhood where she was molested by her brother, and in doing so she ends up killing him, and from there she realized that she just liked to kill people, and she became an assassin. And she's done really well for herself since then. She's opened a club, she kind of does her like killing business on the side, and she ended up kind of being taken under the wing by the capo of a mob. I can't think of what the name is for it right now. No. But anyway, and he becomes like a second father to her. And then he gets a message that somebody is after her and they want to kill her, and they don't care who they have to kill in the process of getting her. You also have like the love interest, who's the capo's son, his younger son, and I say that for a reason, by the way, Giovanni, and he is almost like the exact mirror of Six, but a man, so it's a different sex, but he loves to kill, he likes killing people, he enjoys it, and that's what he does. That's his place in the mafia, is he kills the people. And they kind of realize that they found their mirror image in someone else, and it's kind of them coming to grips with, hey, I like this person and I like what I do, and I don't have to choose because this person is just like me. So yeah, I really like this book. It was short, but I enjoyed it. I felt like it had just enough plot, just enough like sexual angstiness to be good. So I wish it had been like a smidge longer, just because I wanted like a little bit more drawn out than it was. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I give it 4 stars. So now on to the books that I want to read in the month of May. So here I have 5 books. I also have a few that I want to read as a participation in readathons, but I'll kind of show you those in like a vlog or something I think I want to do for it. So I'm not going to show you just yet what they are, because I have an idea but I'm not positive, so we'll see. So anyway, like I said, this is very loose. I don't want to hold myself to this and then I don't do it and I just lied to you. And I'm very much a mood reader and I have to be in the mood to read it. But most of these I'm like 99% sure I'll read. Like I said, it's only 4 or 5 things, so I'm not too worried about reading them. So the first thing is Labyrinth, The Coronation, Volume 1. So basically, this is, if you don't know, Labyrinth is one of my favorite movies from my childhood. It's about a girl who calls on the Goblin King and he takes her brother away and she realizes she didn't really want him taken away. And so she goes through the Goblin City and all these other obstacles and the maze and all this stuff to get back her brother from the Goblin King. So basically this graphic novel series is supposed to be the backstory of how Gareth became the Goblin King. So I think it said something about, it's about a mother who is coming to rescue her son, but obviously something goes wrong because he ends up being the Goblin King. So I am really interested in this. I didn't even know it had a graphic novel for it, but I was like scrolling through Amazon and I ended up stumbling upon it, and so now I'm obsessed and I want to read them all. So yeah, this one I definitely want to get to. And also I just really like the, like, can you see that? The art style. I'm just a fan of that. So like I said, I want to get to this. And then the next book I want to get to in the month of May is The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. And I've heard, sorry if you can hear that, that's my, the wind is blowing very hard outside and that's my like attic. Anyway, so I've heard very good things about this. I've also heard this like a bit of a romance and that this book is good for people who are just trying to get into who are just trying to get into fantasy. So I thought I'd pick this up. It's the first book in her Inheritance trilogy. I don't really know what it's about. I know it's like about gods who've been enslaved by people and this girl who's coming to free them. I think I don't really know. It says Yandar is an outcast from the barbarian north, but when her mother dies under mysterious circumstances, she is summoned to the majestic city of Sky. There, to her shock, Yen is named an heiress to the king, but the throne of the 100,000 kingdoms is not easily won, and Yen is thrust into a vicious power struggle. So I don't really know much more than that, and I kind of don't want to. I want to see what it ends up being, so I have that. And then I'll wait until the book that's kind of my favorite out of the stack. So then I have A Strange Hymn by Laura Thalassa. This is the second book in the Bargainer series, and the Bargainer series started with Rhapsodic, which I read not in April but in March, and it's about a girl named Callie who's a siren, and she does something when she's really young and she ends up calling on the Bargainer, and since then Callie has racked up a wrist full of beads, and each bead is a bargain, and the Bargainer is a dark fae king who usually always comes and collects his debts, but Callie hasn't seen him in 7 years, and then he shows up and he starts collecting his debts and also asks for her help in solving a mystery that's kind of going on in the fae world, where these women are showing up and these women are disappearing, and then when they return they're in a coma and they're holding these children, but the children are very odd and not quite normal. So I have that. And then the last book I have in this stack is Kingdom of Shadow and Light by Kara Marie Moning, and this is the final book in the Fever series. I haven't read this book. It came out in March, in the end of March, and I still haven't read it because I've been kind of avoiding it because I don't want it to be over, but I also really want to read this and to find out what happens with Mac and Barons and all of my favorite characters. So I know that I'm going to get this going to get to this in May. I also didn't want to read it until I could like dedicate a whole day to just reading it. So there is that. So yeah, I think what I'm gonna do for this one is I'm gonna do like one specific vlog for it, and well, I'm doing it mainly for myself because I think I'm gonna cry reading this book, because it is the end and these are some of my favorite characters, and I've been reading these books for over 10 years because I got the first one when I was in high school. So like over 10 years I've been reading these, and yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do with this. We shall see. I might change my mind and just cry alone. We'll see. But yeah, so also in this month I know I want to participate in a couple of readathons. So there's Do the Thing-a-thon by Ashley from A Frolic in Fiction, and I know I want to participate in that, and I think that starts like in the last full week of the month, I think. I could be wrong, so if I can remember I'll put like the dates here, but we'll see. And then I also want to participate in Love in the Night, as well as Breath of the Wild-a-thon. There we go. Couldn't remember. So yeah, and also I go and I have like vacation this month, so I should have like a good amount of free time to do quite a bit of reading. So we'll see what I get done this month. I don't know. And like I said, I go on vacation, but I don't know if I'm going to actually do anything for my vacation. So I might just end up sitting home and reading anyway. We shall see. But yeah, so that's everything I read in the month of April. That's everything I'm kind of hoping to get to in the month of May. We shall see. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video. Subscribe if you wanna. Bye guys.